folks, we're back. We're going to be sewing our signatures together. So there are a few things that you're going to need whenever you're sewing your signatures together. You're going to need a needle and you're going to need thread. Now, there are bookbinding needles that you can buy that are curved. I'm just going to try and dig it out for you here, let you see what it looks like. There we go. These are curved needles that some bookbinders find very useful for binding their books together. I have these, but I don't use them. I personally find them a bit cumbersome. Whenever I'm making my book now, I actually took the tip off it there too, because these can be used for other things other than bookbinding. So I did take the tip off it. Now, on any needles that I use, I always take the tips off them, because you do inevitably stick yourself with the pins, and the sharp end isn't actually needed because you have your holes already in your signature. So as long as the holes are good enough and big enough, the needle's going to fit through. You don't need the sharp end, so take it off. Just whack it off. Keep a couple of needles that you're going to use for bookbinding specifically, like I have here. Don't go out and buy one of these. To be honest, I find them a bit annoying to use, so I just use a large head needle, as you can see. It's got quite a good eye on it. If you can see there. No, come on. Come on. There we go. If you can see the eye on it. So again, I've chopped off the pointy top on this. So I just want to talk to you a wee second about the thread. Originally, whenever I started bookbinding, I was using just ordinary household thread. It's a wee bit too thin. The books did work obviously, but I found that they were a wee bit just a wee bit jiggly in the book. They weren't well lined up. The thread didn't hold it perfectly well. So I used darning thread, which is a wee bit thicker. Darning thread, I'm sorry, you really are going to have to, I'm going to have to put subtitles at the bottom of my videos. My enunciation is appalling. Appalling! See? Appalling! You're all laughing, aren't you? Yeah, I would too. I used darning thread, which I think is a wee bit thicker, and it works as well. But I decided, I find that it knots whenever you're pulling it through. You tend to get knots quite a bit in that sort of thread. Now, if you're careful, you can use it, and perfectly well, it'll hold your book together. We're going to use glue anyway, so there's not a big issue. But if you're okay with being careful and threading it through and making sure it doesn't get any knots or get tangled or whatever, that's fair enough. You use darning thread, that's perfectly fine. But I had a wee look on eBay and I came across stuff that was called waxed linen thread. Now, there's waxed linen thread and there's waxed cotton thread. There's no real difference when it comes to bookbinding. So I got the black waxed linen thread. I went for the 1mm. You can get different thicknesses in it, but I personally find the 1mm is a good thickness for your books. If you go any thicker, I'll just show you the 2mm. There's a considerable difference, and I think if you go for this sort of larger one, it tends to loosen a wee bit more as well, and it doesn't make your signatures quite as tight. So if you can get anything up to 1mm waxed linen thread, that'll do well. And you can actually wax your own thread if you want to have a go at that. I find wax thread doesn't tangle the way the ordinary threads do, so if you can get your hands on this, certainly go ahead. If you can't, don't worry, just use ordinary darning thread, it's perfectly fine. And if you fancy having a wee go at waxing your own with a candle or whatever, but please be careful, you can do that. But this is what we're going to need. This is just an ordinary household needle, and I've got my thread on it here. Now, the way I work out how much thread I need is I measure it by the length of the signature and by the amount of signatures I have. So I've got 8 signatures, so go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I always add on a wee bit extra, about another length of thread, just in case there's any mishaps or mistakes or anything. And plus you need a wee bit at the end of your needle here, and you'll need another wee bit coming out of the back of the signatures as well. I also find handy some ribbon, and I'll show you what I need to do with that in a wee second. And this is how I get my wax thread. It's just in this wee baggie here, and it comes in 10-metre lengths, I think. You will also need, I find it handy to have an old book. This is a very old book I got from a charity shop. So when I'm doing my signatures, I take one signature at a time. Take the other signatures, set them in front of you. And whenever I'm sewing, I have it on the lip of the book so I can sew it perfectly, and I have a good view of it as well. Another thing just about the ribbon, it's going to be sewn into your signatures as well. So what I find I do for the measurement of it, you want it overhanging over the book. I should have used a different colour really, shouldn't I? But overhang, wrap it around the spine and bring it round to this side and let it overhang again. So we'll just cut off that length and then do another one. It's not an exact science, you know, you can end up cutting off some of the ribbon if it's going to be too long over the page, but you're not going to see it anyway. So that is going to be sewn into your signatures. Now because I've got 4 holes here, I'm going to use 2 ribbons. You could use 3 if you wanted in the middle there, but to be honest it's not really necessary, but you can if you want. So I'll just take my lighter here and I'll just burn the edges. That just seals it so it doesn't go raggedy like that. See that there? You don't want that, so this just melts the ribbon fibres. Turn it around. There we go. Right, so you've got your ribbons, you've got all the signature holes done. Make sure the signature line holes all line up together, because sometimes, you know, particularly with my templates, because I'm just sort of eyeballing it, sometimes a hole might be further spaced apart. So if I turn this round like that, you can see that the holes don't line up perfectly. This one's down a wee bit more, further down. So make sure that your signature holes are exactly lined up, or pretty much as close as you can get it. You know, it's not going to be perfect, as I said, it's a handmade book. So you can see they're all lined up there. So you've got your signature holes done, you've got all your signatures, you've got your book, you've got your ribbon, your needle and your thread, and that's you ready to go. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to change the camera angle because it's a bit difficult to see the sewing stitch from here. It's just a simple stitch, but I want you to be able to see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm just going to change the camera angle and I'll be back in a second. Right folks, oh sorry, hit the camera as soon as I turn it on, of course. Right, so I've got one signature on the book here, and I've got my other signatures just in front of me here. You can just see the bottom of them there. So I have them in front of me. Now we need to sew our signatures. Now I'm left-handed, so I start from the left-hand side, but it doesn't matter if you start from the left or the right. It doesn't matter at all. So what I do is I go to the middle of the signature and I hold it. So I've got my hand in the middle of the signature, my 4 fingers here, my thumb round at this side. I take my needle and thread, and we're going to do just a simple in and out stitch. It's very, very easy. So there's the needle up through the middle. Pull your thread out. Not the whole way, obviously we need to leave just a wee tail, just like that. It's about 1.5 inches. Okay? So we're on the inside of our book now, our signature, sorry, and we need to go out through the next hole. And pull that through. Just be careful whenever you get to the end because you don't want to pull this out, so just give that a wee pull like that. So we're on the outside of the signature again, so we need to go in through the next hole. Now whenever you're putting the needle in through, make sure it doesn't slide under like one of the other pages and doesn't come through to the middle. You have to make sure it comes through to the middle, because if you don't, that means it's not sewing each of the signatures together, and you want all your signatures sewn together. So that's it through there. and then out through the last hole. Now there's a technique for keeping your threads taut, and I suppose the thing we would intend to do is to pull it forward towards you, but if you pull it towards you, what you're actually going to do is you're going to pull the thread so tight that it's going to rip right along here, and that'll pull your signature apart, which means you'll have to start all over again. So you don't want to pull forward like this. What you want to do is you take your tail end, you take the thread that has the needle on it, and you pull out to the sides. Oops. And that makes sure that your signature is taut. And it's nice and tight in here as well. You can see it's sitting flush. If you don't pull the threads, they'll be sitting like this, and then whenever you go to put your book together, they'll be sitting and they'll be wobbling inside the book itself. So you need to make sure that each signature is nice and tight. Now the thing is, as you're working with each signature, it is going to loosen up. So you need to do this with every signature. You need to sort of pull it halfway through and make sure everything's tight, and just get in the habit of making sure that the threads are nice and taut. So that's that signature. This is your first signature. We don't need to do anything special with it. It was just in and out, in and out. So you grab your next signature and put it on top of the first one that you sewed. Now this is where we came out through the last hole here. So our needle and thread is sitting at this last hole. So I'll put my hand again inside, and I'm going to go to the corresponding hole above the last stitch that we made. So my needle and thread came out through this hole, so I'm going to go in through this hole of the next signature. Just make sure my wee tail doesn't disappear. Sorry about that. So there we go, in through that hole, pull the signature down. Oh, I've got it wrapped around my computer or my camera somehow. There we go. So just pull your thread out, and as you can see, that is joining the first signature to the second signature. So we're on the inside of your book again, and we go out through the next hole. Pull your thread through, and then we go up in through the next hole. Pull your thread through, give it a wee pull just gently, and out through the final sewing hole, and pull your thread through. Now as you can see here on this signature, the first signature has the wee tail, and your thread has just come through this last hole. So you can see that this side is joined together, but we need to join this side somehow. So what you do is make sure all your threads are nice and taut. Pull out to the side as I showed you before. Pull out to the side here, and we're just simply going to tie a square knot, a double square knot with these two. So I'll just put my needle down, make sure I'm in shot. So I've pulled my threads nice and taut. 1 and 2. So that's those two signatures. That's number 1 signature and number 2 signature joined together, and you've just got your wee tail here. Now this is the only time you'll ever have to do the square knot. You won't have to do this for the rest of the signatures. There's a specific stitch that you have to do, and I'll show you how to do that. So that's your first signature and your second signature joined together. You can see just in the middle of the signature here, that is your thread. You can go for white. You can get waxed white thread. At the time I didn't realise you could, and I just got the black, but it's fine. I mean, you're not going to see it in the rest of the book. It's only in the centre of the signatures that you'll see it. But you know, you can't see it in the rest of the book. So what we want to do is make sure that we have as little a gap between each signature as possible. So you see there, you want to make sure that this is as tight as possible together, because that you know, the tighter you have that, the less movement there is in your signatures. I mean, there's no virtually no movement in that signature at all. But if you find that there is a wee bit of movement, don't panic. That's where the threads come in.